Let's show you some of the latest pictures as an historic visit takes place. The American president, the first in Japan to address the suffering from the atomic bombing of World War II, but it's opening old wounds and some people calling for an apology. RT gets exclusive insight into the key fight for the Iraqi city of Fallujah. As in an interview with our channel, the country's former defense minister questions America's reconstruction promises. And from outsider to candidate, Donald Trump gets all the delegates he needs to be the Republicans' White House nominee, despite courting controversy since day one. Right now, midday in Moscow. Thanks for joining us. This is RT International. Barack Obama has become the first sitting U.S. president to visit the Japanese city of Hiroshima, the site of the world's first military atomic bombing in 1945. He has been speaking at the opening of the memorial commemorating the victims of the atrocity. The U.S. atomic bombing of Hiroshima nearly destroyed the entire city. A second nuclear attack 3 days later on Nagasaki in southern Japan killed 70,000 more. Many of the survivors have suffered cancer and other radiation-induced illnesses or have remained unmarried and childless over concerns of birth defects.
The streets were deserted except for the dead. Some looked as if they'd been frozen to death while in full flight. Others lay sprawled as though some giant had flung them to their death from a great height. Hiroshima was no longer a city, but a burned-out prairie. Hundreds of injured people who were trying to escape to the hills passed our house. The sight of them was almost unbearable. Their faces and hands were burnt and swollen, and great sheets of skin had peeled away to hang down like rags on a scarecrow. They moved like a line of ants. All through the night they went past our house, but this morning they had stopped. I found them lying on both sides of the road, so thick that it was impossible to pass without stepping on them.
で、天井が落ちてきて、で、壁とか机とかにガラスの破片がたくさんあって、私もガラスの破片が突き当たったんですけども、学校まで父が迎えに来てくれまして、で父に背中におぶさって、で家に帰りました。その途中そのものすごい、光景を目にしたんですね。はい。それで、途中帰る途中に爆心地で被害を受けた人たちがもう重い病者のみたいになってゾロゾロゾロたくさんの人が逃げてくる。で皮膚が焼けただれたり、もう死にそうな人たちがたくさん、そういう人たちと遭遇しましてね。それで、水をください、助けてくださいって言って、父の足とか私の足にすがりついてくるんですけれども、それは助けることができないで、父は私をギュッと背負ってその場から逃げるようにして自宅まで帰りました。
In World War II, Japan fought on the side of Nazi Germany and battled in the Pacific Theater against Allied forces. Tokyo had already moved to offer its surrender. Nevertheless, the U.S. still claims the atomic bombs were necessary to end the war. However, many want to hear an apology from Washington for a bombardment often described as unnecessary. But according to the U.S. president, that's for historians to decide, and other American politicians support that view.
The Japanese have not asked us to come and reflect on the wisdom or not of that decision, nor have they asked for the United States to apologize. And in any event, we would not.
With Barack Obama, I have this sick feeling in my stomach that he's going to go and apologize. The White House says that's not going to happen. Honestly, I'll believe it when I see it.
Albert Siegel, a Japan-based correspondent, says that 7 decades later, the tragedy still affects many people's lives.
Now, the site pays tribute to the city of Hiroshima, which is the first city in the world to be attacked using nuclear weapons. It's a legacy that continues to affect citizens and survivors and the descendants. I'm standing outside Hiroshima Peace Memorial Park, where in just a few short hours, U.S. President Barack Obama is expected to make a historic visit. Most people in Japan are not expecting an apology, nor is the U.S. offering one. But what many people hope will happen is that U.S. President Obama will at least pay tribute to the innocent lives lost and hopefully take steps toward a future without nuclear weapons.
Among Americans, opinion is split over the justification for the atomic bombing. But as we learned on the streets of Washington and New York, not everyone even seems to be aware of who actually bombed who.
We are in front of the White House.
We're here in New York City.
We're going to ask Americans.
What is the last country to have used nuclear weapons for military purposes?
North Korea.
Germany?
Japan.
Iraq?
Oh, I know it. North Korea. For military purposes, not for testing.
Right.
The United States.
Last country to use nuclear weapons for military purposes?
South Korea.
Israel, I think.
I'm thinking. No comment.
I guess the U.S.?
Yep.
Maybe the United States?
The United States.
The United States.
The United States.
Tokyo? China? How about the U.S.? It was the only...
What? Oh, wow. Oh, that's cool.
And Barack Obama has been in Japan for 2 days now for the G7 meeting. As you can see here, the mood was apparently quite light-hearted among the world leaders.